I'm Amanda Silver.
And I'm Alex Howard.
And this is Dirty Laundry. So how was your Valentine's Day?
I don't want to talk about it.
I had a great Valentine's Day. I just had a really great day. The kids gave me cards and I gave them cards and chocolates. And it was like, I just think there's so much hype about Valentine's Day. And so, listen, I've been divorced for many years. So it doesn't really affect me, I feel like, as it once did. And so people will be like, how are you doing today?
I'm like, it's a fair question though.
I'm like, great. I'm like,
I know.
I'm like, I got chocolates. I'm like, I don't feel that. But I do see how others can, who are maybe more new to the divorce world.
But who did you get chocolates from?
From my kids, like my parents.
So you're celebrating just in your own way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the thing.
And my sister.
Okay, so cute.
I know.
Yeah. Is it only about romantic love?
I don't think so.
Is it about any kind of love? I mean, I love all the love.
I love all the love.
But historically, it is really
of course.
Okay.
I think it's changed. I think Valentine's Day has changed where it's not just about, the guy gives the girl the roses. I think it's about celebrating the people in your life that you love.
Yeah, I like
that.
Right?
Like a lot of my girlfriends are messaging me, Happy Valentine's Day. I'm like, Happy Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just my kids and my sister. And I don't know. I just don't, I think it's evolving.
So when we were kids, my grandparents, they were immigrants. They didn't really, get a lot of the culture and stuff. They didn't really do Valentine's Day. And so they came here and what is this fun celebration? So they would always give us cards and flowers and all this stuff. And we would always try and explain to them, no, it's romantic love. And we don't care. We just love.
Yeah.
We love you and we want to tell
it.
you. So the Valentine's Day just reminds me of them. Yeah. And the sweetness of all of the love.
Every morning when I was a kid, every Valentine's Day morning, we'd wake up and there'd be chocolates and stuffed animals at our spot on the kitchen table for my parents. So for me, that's what this is about. So when my kids woke up Valentine's Day morning, I had the same thing ready for them. So it had nothing to do with partners. It was just showing people that you love, that you care about them.
That's really cute. Yeah. It's only really ever been about partners. But let me tell you, this year I derived the most pleasure from Valentine's Day in watching my kids write cards to their significant others.
So we don't do that at our school because it's a Jewish day school.
Okay.
So we don't
celebrate Saint Valentine.
We don't celebrate Saint Valentine, but no, we don't do that at school. So the kids don't exchange. Yeah. But I think that's adorable.
It's very cute. And they both have, their little love interests and was
do they have to give it to the whole class though?
If you're going to do it, you do it all.
You do all.
But so they just did it for their little onesies.
Okay.
Yeah, which was really cute. So that was the highlight of my whole day.
I was watching them.
Yes, it was really sweet.
So funny story. So, my dad always listens to obviously he listens to every single episode.
Shout out Sheldon.
And for the first time, he was listening to it through the podcast app.
Ooh, how does he normally listen to it?
I don't know. I sent him a link and he was like, let me do it to the app. I'm like, okay, so download the app, Dad, and listen to the episode. Anyways, we were at my niece's birthday party, and he takes me aside and he goes, Amanda, I gotta tell you something about your episode. I'm like, why? He goes, there's something wrong. I'm like, Dad, what's wrong with you? He's like, I don't know if you have to talk to your producer.
Oh, it's Ryan's fault.
I'm like, what did Ryan do? Okay. He goes, or maybe you guys were just really hyper that day. I'm like, what do you mean we're hyper? He goes, talking so fast. He goes, I couldn't keep up. He's like, it was he's like, maybe you and Alex were strung out on something or so much coffee, but you were talking so fast. So my dad, give me your phone. Let me hear what's going on here. I see on his phone, he's 18 minutes in. So he sat for 18 minutes and listened to us speaking really fast. He had us on fast forward.
Double speed.
And he thought that, we were either really really into the conversation or it was a production problem. It was neither.
I love him.
He's the best. He's our biggest cheerleader.
I listen to everything on 1.5. And whenever we do road trips, I have a speed up audio version of anything, always 1.5, if not 2. Sometimes if they're real slow.
What?
Jonathan's always like, oh my God, I'm going to have an aneurysm. Turn it off.
How is, I listened to ours on 1.25 just to see what it sounded like. And we were
zipping?
Yeah. No, I like one. Why?
Whenever I'm editing, I've listened to it on at least double. I'm like,
it's one thing if you've heard it before and you're just looking for a specific thing. But if you're listening to a podcast for the first time, you can't listen to it on speed dial.
Yeah, double time.
Wow.
Only. So, Sheldon, it's possible. You too can do it.
It was giving me anxiety listening.
So this is exactly what
it was
he
like.
said. Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. And he tried. Stressful. He listened to it for like 18 minutes.
Sweet.
He really did. So.
Well, he's going to love this episode, I think. Because it's just you and I, and we are fired up.
We're fired up.
So
you're on it today.
Make sure it's not on double speed. We got lots to talk about.
You don't need it on double speed.
No, my life is double speed right now. I need to slow down. I need rewind. Can we do a rewind episode?
You need just a slow-mo.
Slow-mo.
Just like slow-mo your life a little bit.
Yeah.
You've got so much going on.
Which is all great things.
Amazing. So many clients and now the DL community. And there's just like a lot and it's great. But it's so busy.
Great. So speaking of the community,
yes,
we have some questions from the community.
We do.
So these are always my favorites because they're actual people like giving us their big concerns and asking for help.
Yeah.
And we don't always have answers per se, but we do love a good debate. So we are going to discuss some questions. Okay. So this one I really like. It is about sleep divorce. Have you heard of this?
Sleep divorce?
Yeah.
No, tell me what this is.
So it came from another podcast.
Okay.
That one of our community members wrote in about. And basically it is the idea of sleeping in separate beds whilst still married.
Okay.
More like, is this a precursor to divorce? Like, is this a sign of what's to come of living separately?
Is this a sign that you're headed down the road of divorce?
So a friend of mine is an architect.
Okay.
And he's been telling me that lately, what's really popular in new home design is
his and hers?
His and her masters with like a Jack and Jill bathroom. Oh. So you have your separate room. You share a bathroom, like that's your common space. Closet as well, same thing. So so master closet, master ensuite. Oh, I guess you can't say master anymore. I don't know. Primary, principal bedrooms. 2 of them. His and hers, each bedroom.
Why not have the 2 bathrooms?
So this is what everybody says.
1 bed, 2 bathrooms.
So apparently people are living, because we're now like this sort of 24/7 globalized society, folks are living really different schedules than their partners.
Okay.
And as a result, you're having disrupted sleep. They're coming in at different times. They're getting up at different times. So whatever then it wakes you up or, interrupts your sleep. So they would rather have their own bed, a real good night's sleep, and I guess share a bathroom. Like you probably still have double vanities. If you're bougie enough to be designing your home, theoretically, you're designing it to fit your needs.
You could potentially have your own bathroom.
And potentially you could just do 2. Really, it's 2 primary bedrooms.
I'll see
in all
you
its
at
entirety.
my Christmas dinner.
But I think for people, like maybe you're a doctor and you work night shifts or a nurse or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I think that people do it. They practice that for different reasons.
Absolutely.
Like you said, like for work, if someone's getting up really early and the other one doesn't
need to have like, the stock market in Hong Kong. You need to be up for that. Well, that's
or
the middle of the
they'll go shower
night.
in another bathroom, maybe downstairs.
Definitely.
Or like
we do that.
Just so you don't wake up the other person.
Totally.
And I think that's different than intentionally sleeping separately.
What if you are just a really poor sleeper? Why
do you have to
why deprive yourself sleep
next to somebody?
Like, I'm here for boning still. Go have a sleepover every once in a while if you like.
A booty call from down the hall?
Right? Like, imagine that like brings a new spice to your life.
You might be onto something.
Come on over to mine.
Yeah.
Jump on into bed. Listen, as somebody who really struggles with sleep generally, I'm a very light sleeper. Typically need like some sleep aids to get to bed, a sleep story, earplugs, the whole 9.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of dig it. And I think if you are sleep deprived, especially if you've got kids, you're sleep deprived or you're, running on various different schedules. Guess what? Your day now sucks because you've had interrupted sleep.
Right.
Versus I had a great night's sleep. I'm going to show up as my best version of myself. Our time together will be better. Again, sleepovers are an option.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
I don't hate it.
I think as long as both people want it.
Yes. Or it's communicated in a way that's not like, oh, I can't
stand you anymore.
I can't be with you anymore. I'm going to the spare room.
I think if it happens where it's like it has nothing to do with like how they feel about each other or how they're treating each other, or it's just like, I just need a night's sleep.
Yeah.
I think it can work. But I think if like you've been sleeping in the same bed for so long and then there's like an argument and something happens and then all of a sudden it's like, I'm down the hall and I'm not coming back. then there's a problem.
Different story. Yeah. So really, to answer the question of is this a precursor to actual divorce, sleep divorce? I think not if you're doing it for
like out of love.
Yeah. Or out of just like your own need. I need to have a good night's sleep in order to do X, Y, and Z. Great. I'm asleep downstairs. Versus, as you said,
I'm angry.
You're annoying to me.
Or I'm detached, and there's a difference.
Big time difference.
I'm not coming home at night, not because I'm working, but because I'm doing other things, and I'm just going to sleep in the other room. Then there's some issues.
And it's time to open up that conversation.
I think you have to look at like how that started.
But great question. Sleep divorce.
Like message us if you're doing this and if it's working for you.
If it's working, yeah. I'd love to hear.
Question number 2. So we've been struggling in our marriage and haven't been intimate for a while.
Okay.
My husband suggests that we try a threesome to spice things up. What should I do? Is this a recipe for disaster?
Okay. I mean, great question. Also, fair warning, super vanilla. So take that with a grain of salt. I'm here for spicing up the sex life if that's something that, again, both want. And both willing to try. I worry that it's a distraction to bring in a third party.
Okay,
like I wonder
what's the issue?
Well, and we don't know the issue. So first step, obviously, what's your issue? If it's just to like increase some excitement, like bring in something novel, maybe start with just the two of you and something along those lines versus bringing in a third party.
But what if like this person?
So funny because we always talk about how bringing a third party in, like professionally,
a neutral third party.
But again, if it's something both people want, why not?
Well, this person that wrote in, it's her husband who's suggesting it.
Someone's got to suggest it. There always has to be one person who needs to be bold enough.
I mean, there's different people do different like arrangements. Like some people decide they want to have more of an open relationship, which I don't think is for everyone, but might work for some people. I think bringing in a third person into like the bedroom, I don't know. I think you have to tread cautiously because, and I think there needs to be like some ground rules too. Like,
love boundary setting.
Like, is this someone who is like going to be like in a throuple with them? Like, are they going to have
very different,
right? Like, is this someone who's going to be involved in their life? And like, are they going to be like a plural relationship?
I think by the question,
or is it just
saying threesome,
I think this is just physical.
Yeah.
So it's like a one-off. It's like a one-off
What
person.
if it becomes a more-off?
A more-off. I don't know.
More than one-off.
I don't know.
A three-off. I'm having way too much fun with this. But yes,
I don't know.
Seriously, I think it warrants a bigger conversation around what the intentions are. Because again, if it's just to spice things up, that's fun. And all willing participants, all the consent, et cetera, spectacular.
Yeah.
If it's a Band-Aid or a distraction.
Which it might be.
Something
else is going on. Also, I want to know which gender.
Sure.
I think that's important too, because this is a hetero couple, so it's a woman and a man, and he's suggesting a threesome. Is he suggesting that they bring in another woman or another man?
Great question.
And I think that will impact the whole dynamic too. Which brings us to our next question.
Question 3
is even juicier than question 2, I think.
He's gay. Do I stay?
Ooh.
So I did make that question silly just because it rhymed and it was fun.
Just for fun. But
there was more context.
Yeah,
there was more context, right?
Okay, so tell us the rest.
They live happily. They coexist happily.
Okay.
They haven't been romantic, obviously, since his coming out. To her. He's realized this. He's told her.
Privately, to her. Okay.
The two of them have had this conversation. They have, talked ad nauseum about it, right? And the question is, really, I think, do you want to stay living as roommates, essentially, and co-parenting,
right, and
living together under one roof, but really living separate romantic lives?
And being okay with that.
And I think, in theory, it's all wonderful until there's an introduction of a new partner.
So that's the thing. If she's okay with it and she stays and kind of like looks the other way and lets him do his thing and has partners, but they still co-parent and they're roommates, and she explores and she meets somebody, it can get tricky.
I mean, they would definitely need to have 2 primary bedrooms.
Oh, entrances, maybe.
I mean, and maybe that's something that you don't leave until that comes up. Like once that arises, the need for introduction of new partners and, that.
But what if that's off the table? Like it's like they're going to stay together.
Never have new love?
No, they're going to stay together. They're going to have physical interactions with other people, but they're still
married.
They're still married. They're still going to go for dinner with their friends. They're still going to go on family trips. They're still going to keep up the charade.
Oh, is it a charade?
It's a charade.
Oh, interesting. Okay, interesting theory.
Yeah.
So,
like, because maybe I mean, you were the one who responded to this inquiry, but maybe she doesn't want to like change like what they have.
The facade.
Maybe they have like a good thing going, and they they get along really well, and like they have a nice life together, and all of these things. The thing that's missing though is a sex issue.
It's just the sex,
and so maybe
and the intimacy.
Well, of course, that comes with it, but maybe. Can that be overlooked, and can they still be like a happily married couple?
So unique.
I don't know.
So I told her,
is it so unique though, or are there more people who are married to people who are maybe homosexual and they're just getting married, or maybe they know.
Maybe that they went into that relationship knowing, like eyes wide open, I'm going to be with this person, but they have a different sexual orientation and will never be physical.
I don't know if they go into it knowing, or if they got married young and then it comes out later, fair. Like they come to the realization later.
I just think it seems like a denial of like happiness
of your true self, of like being yours. And like, is that both? I feel bad for the person who feels that they need to stay in the closet. Like, shouldn't they just be able to be,
one would hope,
themselves and live their like free, true life? But everyone's situation is different. Maybe they have some family pressure, or who knows? Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I obviously told her I was going to bring this to the pod.
Yeah.
So
she's okay
for those that are
with
wondering,
it. Yeah.
yes, we had approval. Because it is this situation of right now it's working so well and you don't want to upset the apple cart. But I truly believe that once you bring in a third party, and not in the threesome way that we were just talking about.
No, not a shared third party, but it's like, even if they start being physical with other people, someone's going to develop feelings.
I think so.
Right? What if she meets a guy?
Why not? Like, you should. They should find love again. There can be
but they are
ship love.
Yeah.
But I think
they can have a lot of love for each other, but just not be physical, and maybe.
Well, and I think what I actually thought you were going to say earlier was how many are living this way where they're not necessarily of a different sexual orientation, but they simply live as roommates. Like that intimacy.
So that I hear a lot. That's more common, I think, especially with the work that we do, where they come to us and they haven't slept together in a long time, and you'd be surprised how long.
Yeah. And I guess like in those instances, you really do need to ask yourself, am I depriving myself of something more?
Right.
Or am I truly content? I mean, people are asexual, right? Like you can live, and if you're still having, let's say, physical contact, there's hugs, there's, that sort of touch where you're still getting it. Plus, you're raising kids. Like there's so many factors. And if it's working, if
it's working and you're happy, you do you, but
I just think it's limited to how long it can work.
Yeah. And I also think that you shouldn't have to live that way. So if you're in a sexless marriage, there are other options,
well, and here's
explore. Like you don't have to just live in, and you're not alone. Like there's a lot of people who are in those positions. Sometimes they end up getting divorced. Sometimes they end up going to counseling and working on it. But like, I think that needs to be addressed.
Because I think here's sort of like almost a let's say segue, but if you are simply not having sex in your marriage, if you are still both, let's say, attracted to even each other, but just that gender, right? Like if we're taking, it doesn't even matter whether you're homosexual, heterosexual,
taking sexual orientation off of the.
If you've ceased being intimate in your relationship, but there's always the possibility of reconnecting, then I almost want to say that that's different than you are not attracted to this person. You now have a completely different orientation than you did, let's say, when you entered the marriage. there's no hope of bringing that intimacy back.
I find the whole sexless marriage thing totally fascinating. And how people do like years, I've heard.
And happily.
I don't.
You don't believe it?
No, I believe it. I just don't.
No, you don't believe that they can do it happily?
Yeah. I think there's a void there. There is. Yeah.
And you think eventually.
Unless they're both unless for some reason two like asexual people have found each other and they're perfectly content with not having any, physical, relationship. I don't think that's usually the case. It's usually one and not the other.
Okay, well, let's turn the tables entirely and go to question 4. Which is, we've been divorced now for 6 months and continue to have sex.
Ooh. Okay. They've been divorced? They've been separated?
This is like breakup sex, but ongoing.
Isn't breakup sex to like get back together?
No, that's makeup sex.
Right. Okay, so this is ongoing breakup sex.
Ongoing divorce sex.
Separation sex.
Yeah. Now, I have to say, I have seen this with couples who have decided to separate but are still living together whilst, coming up with their agreement, et cetera, working on the divorce. And there have been, let's call them slips. Because you're literally still in the same bed, right? We don't live in mansions where you can just go to the guest room.
You're always the same bed. I think most people who separate, there's a move to like the basement or there's
I have a lot of people who are not moving. There's nowhere to move. Bed. Yeah.
Okay. I've only had one file where they're still in the same bed. But okay, so
irregardless of beds.
Yes.
I can understand how if you are in this same vicinity, you're living in the same home, kind of like slip into
your old routines.
Habitual kind of relationship.
I actually have heard from some clients where they felt pressure. Which is not, I don't like that either. No. Where they have this sort of, it's like this looming pressure.
Like an expectation?
Yeah. And I've always tried to empower them and tell them like, no.
Get a safe space.
Yeah. There's obviously that discussion too. But this sounds like it's like a willing
participants.
Very willing participants who are just, this is the thing. I think it could mess with your separation date. Legal stuff. Can't it?
No.
I don't know. You've separated. Okay, on January 3rd. And then you're sleeping together on March 3rd?
Doesn't matter. As long as you both understand that you are separated.
I don't know.
As long as there's agreement on that date, and it was clearly communicated. Legalities be damned.
I know. I don't mean that you're going to have to
pose this to Mike.
Yeah, I don't think you have to prove your sex life in court. That's not what I mean. I just think one person might say, well, actually, we were sleeping together, so how are we actually separated?
Yeah.
So that just might be a bit more of a pickle.
It blurs a lot of lines.
It blurs some lines, yeah.
But does it mean something?
Here's a thought. Maybe you do a trial separation. So maybe these people are not ready to actually separate.
Okay.
They're still sleeping together. There's still something there.
Yeah, but you can be attracted to somebody and not want to be married to them. You can have real good sex and not want to have a relationship with that person.
But don't you think if you've got kids together, you're married, you have this whole history, how can you then separate that and just keep it physical? Can you?
Maybe the sex is just that good. They're not willing to give it up.
But they're going to have to eventually, aren't they?
I don't know. Who are we to say?
They're always just going to hook up?
Maybe. 2 consenting adults.
No, not that they can't. I just don't know how that's going to work with this divorce. And then
these are some good questions. I like these conversations.
Can you be divorced and still hook up with your ex?
I think as long as you're not maybe in a new relationship, an exclusive relationship.
You have to have some ground rules for this.
Ground rules, lots of conversations around it.
We were in love. We did have a marriage, but now we're going back and we're just going to be physical.
But it is interesting. And I think what it really points to is that there are so many components to a relationship.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe there's no physicality, but the relationship works. Maybe there's only physicality and the relationship did not work, right? It's so nuanced and it's so individual. And to really have, I don't know, an opinion or a viewpoint.
Well, you can.
Is making so many assumptions.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to have a good debate about it, but ultimately, as long as I think the two people or whoever is involved, 3, however many,
or who knows,
or multiples of any kind, provided that it is open and it is transparent and everyone is in agreement, right? Ground rules, etc.
Yes.
Who's
so
to
like,
say?
I'm just picturing that like these people are divorced and like dad's like climbing out mom's window.
Oh my God.
He's like, oh, sorry. I forgot your lunchbox. That's why I was here.
Because they don't want to tell the kids.
They don't want to tell the kids. So they're sneaking around.
Throwing pebbles at the window.
like teenagers. They're
So
sneaking
cute.
around.
Why do I love that so much
I know. I think that's hysterical.
That is so adorable.
Mom, I heard voices in your room. Oh, no, honey. It was just the TV. Dad, oh, no.
I think at the end of the day, if you're sleeping in separate beds, if you're having lots of sex, if you're having no sex, if it works for you, Godspeed.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
I mean,
Yeah.
everyone's relationship is so different.
I think it all boils down to communication.
Always.
Just communicate with the person that you're doing this with.
Yes.
Make sure you're on the same page so that you can avoid, any landmines.
Sure.
And you're good to go.
And you're good to go.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? As long as you're not harming anyone.
Yeah.
Who are we to judge?
This episode was written and created by Alex Howard and Amanda Silver. Produced, edited, and engineered by RTF Productions. Make sure to rate and review our show if you loved it and give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast to stay up to date on all upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and go easy on us. We're not your ex.